All you need to know about ISTJ personality type. Ought to comprise over 10% of the general population, ISTJ is among the most commonly encountered personality types, outnumbering the INTJ at a clip of 10 to 1. ISTJs are among the most loyal, dutiful, and responsible of the types. They make loyal friends and companions and are admired for their devotion, steadfastness, and perseverance. If ESPs are the hares of the 16 types, ISTJs are the tortoises. They work slowly and steadily until the job is done, fastidiously attending to all the details along the way. In order to understand ISTJs, one must first understand their dominant function, introverted sensing, C, which compels them to preserve and protect past ways of doing things. Their C characteristics led David Keirsey to rightly describe them as guardians. ISTJs guard and defend traditions and conventions, particularly those they have significant personal experience and familiarity with, e.g., their childhood religion. Like the ISFJ, ISTJs can grow attached to the routine and familiar. The more often they do something in a particular way, the harder it is for them to break out of that pattern. This not only applies to their behavioral habits, but also to their beliefs and worldview, as many ISTJs continue in the same belief system in which they were raised. While ISTJs are at times viewed as stubborn or finicky, they are actually more easygoing than is typically accredited them. Since C is a perceiving function, their first preference is to assume a receptive rather than controlling attitude. Unfortunately, this often goes unnoticed, since C is introverted in direction. This is especially true in work settings, where ISTJs are more apt to call on their auxiliary T. Once away from the workplace, however, most ISTJs know how to be leisurely, something the ESTJ can have a harder time with. In short, ISTJs are far less rigid and controlling, especially inwardly, than they are sometimes painted to be. In sharing the same dominant and inferior functions, ISTJs have much in common with ISFJs. However, their auxiliary functions do confer significant differences. ISFJs use extroverted feeling, FE, as their auxiliary function, which grants them a greater measure of social and emotional intelligence. And while ISTJs may lack some measure of social grace, their auxiliary thinking function, T, contributes stronger powers of logic and tactical intelligence. Although differing in only one preference, i.e., JP, ISTJs actually share zero functions with ISTPs. ISTPs, who use C instead of C, are less concerned with past precedent than ISTJs are. Their C also confers a stronger desire for sensory and material novelty. Lastly, ISTPs are more inclined toward hands-on work, whereas ISTJ career seekers are more disposed to administrative or other white-collar sorts of work. ISTJ personality development and functional stack. Each personality type prefers to use 4 of the 8 functions first described by Jung. These 4 functions comprise a type's functional stack. The relative strength of preference for these 4 functions is expressed in the following manner. Dominant, auxiliary, tertiary, and inferior. ISTJ's first preference is C, followed by T, Phi, and respectively. This is depicted in the arrangement of their functional stack. While we will soon discuss each function in greater depth, for now, we will turn to another feature of ISTJ's personality, their type development. As is true for all types, ISTJ's type development consists of 3 general phases. These phases roughly correspond to the ordering of the functional stack, with C being the first function to blossom, T the second, and so on. But as we will see, the inferior function is sort of a special case, summoning ISTJ's attention at an earlier phase than might otherwise be expected. Phase 1, Childhood 20s. Phase 1 is characterized by the development and rise to power of their dominant function, introverted sensing, C. ISTJs use their C to absorb, integrate, and reflect on acquired information and personal experiences. Phase 1 ISTJs may also show some development of their auxiliary function, extroverted thinking, T, which can serve as a helpful extroverted tool for navigating and managing the outside world. Phase 2, 20s to 30s. While the inferior function is not entirely dormant or inert in Phase 1, the epic tug-of-war between the dominant and inferior does not come to the fore until Phase 2. Once ISTJ's dominant C reaches a certain threshold of strength and dominance, their inferior function, extroverted intuition, N, begins to assert itself and play a more prominent role. This can be somewhat confusing since N is not next in line in ISTJ's functional stack, but can be understood as deriving from its bipolar relationship with their dominant C. Phase 2 ISTJs also show increasing use and development of their T and may even begin to tap into their tertiary function, introverted feeling, Phi. Phase 3, 30s, 40s and beyond. If all goes well and they are fortunate enough to enter Phase 3, ISTJs become increasingly aware of the insidious ways of their inferior N. As they become more aware of their inferior and learn to function more healthily as ISTJs, they experience greater balance between their C and N, as well as an increasing sense of peace and wholeness. ISTJ's dominant function, introverted sensing. ISTJs use introverted sensing, C, as their dominant function. C-types, i.e. SJs, are quite different from C-types, i.e. SPs. Unlike SPs, ISTJs are not sensation seekers. They tend not to venture out seeking novel sensations, experiences, or material goods. Instead, they typically prefer a more stable and steady lifestyle. C undergirds ISTJ's propensity to function as conservators of tradition. However, because C is a perceiving function, ISTJs are less inclined to function as frontline activists for their beliefs or values than ESJs are. Rather, ISTJs prefer spending time reflecting on the past and their cherished traditions. Many enjoy attending religious services or studying religious texts, activities that support and strengthen their C convictions. Another feature of C is its role in bodily sensation. Namely, it serves to monitor internal bodily affairs, ensuring that bodily needs are satisfied. As an introverted function, C is more intensive than C is, which can make ISTJs more sensitive to certain sensory stimuli. They may be hypersensitive to things like lighting, room temperature, noise levels, etc. This can make them more irritable than other types when sleep-deprived, hungry, or otherwise physically uncomfortable. Sensitivity to strong or unusual flavors and textures may lead them to adopt a relatively bland or routine diet. We can also compare C with its intuitive cousin, Ni. As perceiving functions, both can be viewed as functioning rather passively. Both can also be associated with strength of conviction, as SJs and NJs alike can seem outwardly stubborn, opinionated, or closed-minded. The chief difference between these two functions is that Ni is a synthesizing function, weaving together disparate information to construct its own impressions or interpretations. C, by contrast, does not see a different reality behind immediate sense data. Instead, it compares present experiences to past ones. For Ni, every experience is new and interpreted on its own terms. For C, the past plays a more prominent role in interpreting the present. While it can be easy for other types to criticize ISTJs for their conservative ways, we should not overlook their value and purpose. ISTJs remind us of where we've been and can thereby keep us from repeating our past mistakes. Their C also serves as a necessary cultural counterbalance to C, reminding us that material resources are limited and should be handled with care and concern. ISTJ's auxiliary function. Extroverted thinking. Extroverted thinking, T, serves as ISTJ's auxiliary function. It undergirds their tendency to outwardly express their judgments and opinions. ISTJ's tendency to think out loud by way of their T can be both a strength and a weakness. On the one hand, their T can make ISTJs strong and effective teachers or managers. On the other hand, it can result in them coming across as brusque, dogmatic, or controlling. Like other judging types, ISTJs can be prone to overstating things or saying things that, in retrospect, they wish they could rescind, or at least soften. Unlike extroverted feeling, T is not oriented to the preservation of social harmony. It is less personal and less attuned to others' feelings. ISTJ's preference for T may therefore lead others to perceive them as lacking some degree of tact or empathy. T also strives to bring order, control, and rationality to external systems and operations. The modern world, characterized by a snowballing of bureaucracy and red tape, might be viewed as an offspring of an unchecked T. ISTJ's T, in combination with their C, makes them well suited for administrative, clerical, and other careers that require careful attention to detail, protocols, and procedures. While other types may find highly structured work settings off-putting, ISTJs find them comforting, since they know what to expect and what their role is according to the delineated structure. ISTJ's tertiary function, introverted feeling. Introverted feeling, Phi, is ISTJ's tertiary function. As an introverted function, Phi involves an inner focus on and analysis of personal feelings and values. Of all types, IFPs, who use Phi as their dominant function, are literally the most self-focused, in a neutral sense, with respect to their concern for independently exploring and managing their values and emotions. ISTJs, by contrast, whose Phi is far less conscious, do not always enjoy ready access to their own emotions. As an inner judging function, Phi grants IFPs a strong sense of inner self-control. But since ISTJ's Phi is in the tertiary position, they do not enjoy the same degree of inner control. To compensate, they, like other TJ types, focus more on shaping or controlling the outside world via their T. One of the more important features of Phi is its direction. Namely, because it is introverted, onlookers are often barred from accessing ISTJ's emotions. This is exacerbated by the fact that Phi is subordinated to T in their functional stack. Consequently, can sometimes appear cold, aloof, or otherwise unemotional. As ISTJs tap into their Phi, they begin to attend more closely to their personal feelings and values, as well as those of others. They begin to recognize and appreciate the merit of subjective concerns, acknowledging that truth or value is not limited to past precedent, c, or external standards, t, but can also include individual preferences, phi. In opening to their phi, ISTJs can become more compassionate and understanding, even toward those at the other end of the political or religious spectrum. ISTJs inferior function. Extroverted intuition. As is true of other types, ISTJs can be blinded to the degree to which their inferior function impacts their decisions and behavior. Without sufficient awareness and integration of their inferior, ISTJs will be prone to unwise decision-making. Consequently, ISTJs seeking personal growth must work to understand the ways their inferior function, extroverted intuition, (NA), manifests in their personality. NA is concerned with generating and connecting ideas, as well as seeing all the various options and possibilities. Prone to seeing connections and associations everywhere, it is an unpredictable and highly divergent function. This is why NA types are often viewed as quirky and unconventional creatives. While it is true that ISTJs are rather routine and conservative in their ways, there are numerous ways in which NA can manifest in their personality. One way ISTJs may indulge their NA is through various sorts of speculation or prognostication. One of the most common ways ISTJs do this is through gossip. By proffering theories about various people or happenings, they secure an ego boost for their NA. They also enjoy propagating various religious or political theories. ISTJs also engage their NA in their hobbies, such as word or math games. I know a number of ISTJs who enjoy working crosswords, sudokus, or other sorts of puzzles. Such activities allow them to exercise their C recall, utilize T strategies, and make associations and experiment with possibilities, (NA). Many ISTJs also enjoy a variety of arts and crafts that allow for creative use of their NA. ISTJs also employ their NAs by looking for creative ways to teach others. In addition to their desire to impart CT information, creative use of their NA may be another reason ISTJs gravitate toward teaching. As for other types, integration for ISTJs does not occur through direct use or development of their inferior function. Rather, ISTJs are better off allowing their NA to remain unconscious, functioning passively in the background. Instead of trying to develop or display more foresight, cleverness, or creativity, integrating ISTJs do what ISTJs do best, focusing their time and energy on C and T, while trusting that, in due time, everything else will fall into place. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share and subscribe.